Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. A whole bunch of stuff to get to. Just weird stuff. Ben Affleck flipping out, but not really. I just watched that. The Justin Timberlake thing. Bunch of stuff to do with Foochi. The whole thing's falling apart, that narrative. Like, if they were human beings, they just admit, all right, we were wrong about everything. Sorry. Sorry, anti-vaxxers. Sorry, everybody, but. Bunch of things here. Let's start off with this one. The mayor of Oakland, FBI raids the Oakland mayor Sheng Tao's home.
What's happening right now in Oakland? The FBI has raided a home associated with Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao. Within the last hour, agents left carrying boxes. You see them right there out of the home. And sources are now telling ABC 7 News this may be a part of a larger raid involving several other locations across the city of Oakland. Thanks for joining us on this busy news day. I'm Julian Glover.
And I'm Kristen Z.
Way to go, Julian Glover. Look at that's a quality. Look at that going on right there. Christian Z. they're getting it done there in Oakland.
You can't park here, okay? I've had an agreement. I've had an agreement for years.
We live in.
Doesn't matter if you've got an agreement. This is our new house.
Moved in.
Bill and Jenny said I can always park here. I've got teenagers.
Yeah, but we're not.
Wait, Bill and Jenny said. Come on, Bill and Jenny said. Leave her alone. Bill and Jenny said. So this woman is going to these new homeowners and saying, I get to park in your driveway, in your car park, as they say, in your car park.
We're not Bill and Jenny, are we?
I don't have a driveway.
Where's
So?
the park in
It
our
ain't my
own
problem
house?
that you've bought this house.
You see that, this
That's
stupid
my
cow?
Bill said that I can park there.
Having a laugh?
It's simple. The house is yours. You bought the house, but
Yeah.
that driveway, my car can go.
Doesn't
on.
matter. The driveway is ours. It's part of our
I knew
land.
you'd be
You're
nice.
taking
I knew you'd be nice.
nightmare. We just pulled.
I knew you would be nightmare neighbors. I knew you would be nightmare neighbors. I knew you guys weren't going to let me park in your driveway.
Here, you come up to us like a crazy woman. Are you taking the piss?
I've had a verbal agreement with Bill and Jenny for years.
But they're not here anymore.
You just bought the house, and on the deeds, we've got a parking space
Well,
in
I've still
front of
got
our
the
house.
agreement.
We need to move into our house. We've got loads of stuff in the boot. Get your car off our drive so we can put our car on.
You will be moving it, I'm telling you now.
No, you're dodgy neighbours.
Dodgy
And I
neighbours?
knew
You know
you'd both
fuck
be a
all about
problem.
us. You know naff
I
all
knew you'd be a
about
problem.
us.
I think people like you should move into these
What do you mean
houses.
people like
These are
us?
lovely neighbours.
What do you mean people like us?
Well, you're very rude, aren't you?
Parking on
Not just-
everybody's
How are we
fucking drive.
rude?
Why don't you
Yeah.
park on your own drive?
I don't have a drive, and I've got
Well,
teenagers.
park outside the front of your house then, and not on our drive.
I advise
You
you
having a
to
laugh?
are.
You having a laugh
I
here?
don't want you
Serious?
living next door to me.
Yeah.
Look.
What's the-
That was platinum. That was just great. Like, just totally clueless, and they got her. I'd like to kind of figure out what happened there. Okay, so there's no resolution. I mean, it could be staged. Anything like this can be staged. But if it isn't staged, I'd like to find out what happened. Dr. Anthony Fauci writes COVID-19 lab leak is a conspiracy theory in memoir, but told Congress it wasn't. So we got some more. This is just the beginning of Fauci. I got more coming down the pipe here.
Testified that you did not suppress the lab leak theory, yet in the past you have said, quote, it is a distortion of reality, unquote. You've said, quote, I've heard these conspiracy theories, and like all conspiracy theories, they're just conspiracy theories. That's what you told the American people. And so would you like to clarify what science were you following then versus now?
Yeah, no, I've also been very, very clear and said multiple times that I don't think the concept of there being a lab leak is inherently a conspiracy theory. What is conspiracy is the kind of distortions of that particular subject, like it was a lab leak and I was parachuted into the CIA like Jason Bourne and told the CIA.
No one said you were parachuted in. Nobody said that. No one think you're parachuted in. You're like 90. No one's talking about parachuting in, bro. But it was a biological weapon. You guys released it on all of us. FUM, whatever. So here's Obama, and this is the hammer guy.
Have both an airborne disease that is deadly.
And that time came.
It did. It came with a freaking lab leak.
Before we get to COVID, you took your life in your hands to treat Ebola patients. It's the most dangerous thing you've ever had to be in the room.
Yeah, he's so caring. He's not a healer. Okay? This guy is a doctor, but not a healer. There are doctors who are healers. There are nurses who are healers. And there are normal people who are healers. He ain't one of them, right? I ain't one of them either. But, there's people who have healing energy and they're good at healing people. And he's not a healer. He's a businessman and, a shill.
You weren't going to catch AIDS by treating AIDS patients.
Don't get us started on that. Boop.
People could catch COVID by treating COVID patients. But Ebola, the chance of you being killed in your treatment of an Ebola patient was as high as it gets in the world of medicine. What about that? When you think about your wife, you think about your 3 kids, when you put on that suit, that giant suit to walk in there to seal off your body from any possible contact, and you're walking in there, what makes you walk in there?
Well, the fact is we have a great team at the NIH that is part of the team.
Oh, you guys are such a great team. Okay. So the name of this video is Love You Back, Man. Dr. Fauci reflects on the advice President Obama gave him. I couldn't find it in the video. I combed through it the best I could. But it's just one of these, where Lawrence O'Donnell, the hammer guy, is just getting on his knees and servicing Foochi, which is despicable. So I think there's more in the lab leak coming. Plus, there's a girl who was in the National Guard, and the U.S. military refused to compensate her. She got the bloop. All these soldiers got the bloop, mandatory. They just give soldiers whatever they want medically. And they gave all these soldiers the bloop, and now they're having all these side effects. And this girl has side effects. I'm going to show you that. She's on with Chris Comas. And I think there's something from Rand Paul talking about the ridiculous aspect of it not being a lab leak. Now, whether it's intentional or not, this was a biological weapon that was created in a facility and then released on the American people, either accidentally or intentionally, right? I mean, the evidence is kind of overwhelming. If you've had the thing, you've had a bad dose of it. Like if you've had, if you got COVID and it was, you got a severe dose of it, you got the full, experience of it. Like lots of people, it just was minor and it was like nothing. But people who've experienced it and long COVID and just how weird it was as a disease. Like when I got it the worst the first time, there'd be days I'd be completely fine. And that was when we didn't know whether you were going to, like how many people were going to die. Like it was just out there, this was the early going. I got it like a month after everybody started to get it in March of 2020. And I didn't know what the percentage of death were, right? I knew if you went to the hospital and they put you on a respirator, that was like death, right? Like I kind of knew that going into it. But I didn't know how bad it was going to be. And if you got a dose like me, my wife got a pretty bad, experience with it, you realize it's really not like any other disease or illness you've had, because there'd be times I thought it was completely better. The one that made it difficult to breathe. And I have no idea why it was difficult to breathe. Like I thought it was about my lungs, but there was no congestion in my lungs. There was nothing. Like I wasn't congested. I was breathing fairly well. It was just, it might have been heart related. I don't know, but like when you would have shortness of breath and it was pretty brutal, and it would go away the next day and it was like you were better. You're like, oh, I'm better. It's fine. So no symptoms at all. At least I had no symptoms. And then that night I'd be gasping for air again, wake up in the middle of the night. It was especially bad when I slept. And then, getting Omicron, that was weird too. And the effects it had, it ravaged my body on different levels. If I've had the flu, I've had mono, I've been sick before. Chicken pox as a kid. And there was nothing like anything like that. Where you'd sleep it off, you just rest, whatever. Normal symptoms. There was some continuity and some rhyme or reason to the disease. And, it was something completely bizarre, like to have. And it was, to me, it was a biological weapon. But either it was released on purpose or they released it accidentally. And either way, they should stop doing gain of function and making biological weapons, because now we know that they can't keep them safe from the public. Whether they did it intentionally or they did it accidentally, either way, it doesn't matter, right? Because once you F up that badly and it has the effects where it shuts down the world economy and millions of people die, then you stop, you can't keep these things safe, right? You show that this is not a thing that we can move forward doing. Shut down all labs, all kind of gain of function, all these types of things. Because this one got out to the public. Whatever way it did, you guys are done. Like, you guys are, like you've made a mistake that shows that human beings aren't capable of experimenting with something like this and being able to keep it safe from the public. This thing spread around the world, right? And what if it was something worse? And so it was a 50% kill rate. Half the population would have died because you guys are fucking around with something and you can't keep it safe from people, right? And so whatever the official story is, whatever whatever really happened, whatever, from now on, it should be clear. I mean, that's what politicians should be running on. Yeah, you guys got to shut down all this lab BS that you're doing because you failed us. This is on the scientific community that was, it became it was a time where science became stronger than religion. The religion of science became the dominant religion because they said, no, you can't go to church because the power of prayer won't work, and we're the experts, we're the scientists. But you were the guys that effed this up in the first place, right? This is on you. It's like when they made the bankers in charge of cleaning up the mess they made from the derivatives collapse and the subprime mortgage debacle in 2008. You're the ones who caused the problem. You're not the experts. You're not here to save us. You've effed us, right?
What, is this as big as it sounds?
I think it potentially is. I mean, it's very early days. So basically, they've discovered that if they use the same technology that they use for COVID, and they use some mRNA, which is a messenger part of DNA, they take your particular cancer, they biopsy it, they take some of the protein on your cancer, and they put it back into your cells.
How many people have you treated so far?
Well, we've had 10,009 clinical trials in humans so far.
And how many are cancer-free?
10,009.
So you have actually cured cancer?
Yes, yes. Yes, we have.
So the I Am Legend was about where they turned them all into zombies. So I Am Legend, was that zombie movie. And here they are. They're looking very similar, right? So that happened. Lions legend Barry Sanders reveals health scare with heart over Father's Day weekend. And then here's another one. I think my wife sent me this. Despite being double vaccinated, wearing a mask, and taking all the precautions I tested positive for COVID over Father's Day weekend, and now he has, other health effects going on. All right, this was interesting here.
You should never ever reintroduce it to the water. When these animals reach the shore of the beach, they are usually very sick and in very poor condition. Although perhaps at first glance, for an ordinary person, if you are not a specialist or biologist, you may not notice anything wrong. Dolphins are mammals and breathe through lungs like us. Therefore, if the dolphin is very sick, in most cases they do not have the strength to stay out of the water and be able to breathe at the same time. Therefore, they end up drowning. What we must do is call 112. They will implement the protocol, and experts will come to assess the situation.
I'm not psyched about the experts, but that makes sense. Like maybe they can't, prop themselves up to breathe anymore because they're so weak. Which, it's going to happen, and, whatever. So maybe there's a reason they're running aground. This is about how a cat's eyes are slitted like a reptile's, but lions and tigers and other large cats don't have the slitted eyes. And how cats have hiss and snakes hiss and things like this. Kind of interesting video. I'm not going to show it. But the idea that cats and reptiles have something in common, right? My terrifying Vegas trip with Gaddafi's psychotic son, $10,000 bets, coat binges, Berettas, $1 million hotel bills, and how I barely escaped with my life, and $60,000 in stolen cash strapped to my chest. That's quite a headline. There's Gaddafi's son. You know, Gaddafi was a good leader, but his son is a immoral partying prick, according to this article, hanging out with Hillary and the likes. You know, Hillary's the one who killed her dad.
Sleepless nights?
Sleepless nights? Every night. I don't know where we're going to live or how we're going to live.
Howard Konitz never thought he'd be in this situation at 79 years old.
We can't afford it. We can't afford it. We're going to go broke.
Konitz and his wife Sheila have lived in their 2-bedroom, 2-bath Williams Island condo for 10 years. The retired couple had their financial future all planned out.
Elevator modernization.
That was until they were recently hit with a special assessment.
The total assessment for the apartment we're sitting in is what?
Approximately $224,000.
When you say that number, can you believe it?
No. Not at all.
That's on top of their monthly maintenance that's gone from $1,500 to $3,000.
We never anticipated to have this escalation.
According to Condo Doc's assessments in Mediterranean Village in Williams Island, where Konitz lives, are as high as $400,000 for just one apartment. Projects budgeted for his building include everything from consultants to roofing, concrete restoration, elevator modernization, termite treatment, and $700,000 alone for landscaping.
Somebody also told me, well, if you're not able to pay, you shouldn't be living here.
The assessments at Williams Island can't be passed on to a potential buyer. Konitz has had his condo on the market and has dropped the price several times. He was turned down for a reverse mortgage by a lender due to strict condo rules.
Maybe I can give it away for pennies on the dollar.
He is not alone. This listing at the Cricket Club in North Miami discloses a $134,000 assessment. A new Florida law enacted after the 2021 collapse of the Champlain Towers in Surfside mandates increased building inspections and reserve funding for condo buildings. The rules come with a hefty price tag for owners of older buildings.
Have you ever seen numbers like this?
No.
Susie Friedel has been a realtor for 50 years. She's a mediator for the Miami Board of Realtors and the Florida Supreme Court.
What is the assessment on the apartment that you have for sale?
Just about $290,000. There needs to be assessments. The problem is they've done too much at one time. The boards have gotten so nervous about all this that now they're doing everything at once.
There is no comment on camera.
Okay, so, you know, this is going to happen. I talked about it because there's inflation. This is, you know, this is a specific thing to do with that Florida condo collapsing. Insurance rates, I'm sure, are skyrocketing as well. But this is going across the board. You're going to retire with so much money, and you're going to think that you have enough money when you're, you know, when you're working or when you're about to retire, or, you know, before you retire. But then inflation hits and your money's completely devalued. Social Security disappears, which it's gonna, but even if Social Security's there, you're not gonna have, you know, if you get inflation triples and you have enough money to get you to the end of your life, then you'll be in Agenda 21 housing, or you're gonna have to, you know, some kind of get COVIDed or whatever it is, right? So this is what's gonna happen to people. They're just not gonna have enough money to retire and all the rest of it, all that implies. Okay, I've been covering all these buses and trucks and cars running into buildings. Seattle bus crashes into building, injuring more than a dozen. It's happening quite a bit. This is kind of hilarious. Why can't I find a guide like this? Ugh. Or The guy goes, Shawn Michaels, the wrestler, who this is, says, hey. And the Karen said, no. And he goes, I'm literally the guy in the picture, right? This is from him years ago. He was one of those bogus professional wrestlers. I'm literally the guy in the pic. And so she really doesn't want to meet a guy like that. because he's old and now bald. All right, so this is this Poppy the prairie dog. I've seen a bunch of these videos on YouTube. It's kind of interesting. The Poppy does this thing called the Wahoo.
Hi. Hi. Look at that little face. Yeah, double wahoo.
So they got a couple of prairie dogs, rescued prairie dogs, him and his wife. And, they're kind of interesting videos. Delivery gone wrong as thieves clash over package and shocking video. And so...
Porch pirates duke it out for a box right after it's delivered, and it is caught on camera. This happened in Sinking Spring Borough, Pennsylvania, while the residents were home. The two men had pulled up in separate cars. One picked up a flower pot to fend off the attack. The homeowner says the box contained a phone from AT&T. He wants to know how the suspects found out it was being delivered. Officers are searching for those two suspects. FedEx says its top priority is making sure customers get their packages safely and securely.
The FedEx driver completely ignored two thieves running as soon as he turned around, who probably were following him. Epic. So Justin Timberlake, let's watch it. So, apparently this was right after he got busted for a DUI. You can see from his eyes and his mannerisms, he's kind of baked. And that happened. The new White House, from Libs of TikTok, the new White House Associate Communications Director, this dude right there, is on the job for you guys. Here, this happened.
Coca-Cola just signed a 5-year, $1.1 billion deal with Microsoft. 5 years ago, it was discovered that there were fluorescent nanoparticles in Coca-Cola. Now, if I were a conspiracy theorist, I might think there were more to this partnership.
Now, according to reports, Microsoft and the Coca-Cola Company have announced a 5-year strategic partnership to align Coca-Cola's core technology strategy system-wide. So it is said to enable the adoption of leading-edge technology and foster innovation and productivity globally. Using Azure Open AI service, Coca-Cola is currently exploring the use of generative AI-powered digital assistants. Now, did you know they have found nanotechnology in Coca-Cola and in Pepsi products? Have a look at this.
So there's that. Self-explanatory. The world's worst ride ever. So they're going around here, and then they start hitting each other, right? That guy spins back, and now they're like banging into each other and slamming around, and going upside down like it just becomes total chaos. MTV's Real World Miami star Sarah Becker, dead at 52. Cause of death revealed, and it was a suicide. There she is on the show. I didn't see that show. I saw some of them, but not that one. This guy's got a watermelon problem.
Y'all, I swear I've had this watermelon for maybe 4 or 5 days. Went out of town, came back, it literally exploded. Look at this.
So I've been showing you fake food, the videos with fake food, and avocados, watermelons come up, other things, bananas. Trust the science. Okay, let me see. It will be released in 75 years. Good one.
Dr. Gary indicated that the intelligence community was somewhat unified, or a lot of them believe this came from animals, and that's just not true. The ones that have been vocal about this and talked a lot about it have been the DOE, which has more scientists than any other agency in Washington, probably other than NIH. They've concluded that it did come from the lab. FBI concluded it came from the lab, and we have a whistleblower from the CIA that says the scientists that were convened to study this voted 6-1 to say it came from the lab, and then they were overruled by superiors for political reasons. So there's a lot of evidence that people within the intel agencies actually do believe that there is evidence that it came from the lab, in addition to people getting...
Yeah, so, we know where this is going. Foochi isn't there, but it's, again, this is the official story, which I don't believe. Obviously, it didn't come from animals. I believe that was intentional releasing of a bioweapon to do what they've done. Like, it just wouldn't have gone global like this without any pushback if everyone wasn't in on it, and I could only assume that depopulation's a part of the agenda. So going back to what I was saying earlier about if this, they're saying it was leaked from a lab. They're all saying it was from China, which I don't believe. Again, it might be from China, but I believe as a global, it was a global plan. But if you think about, we are a very blaming world culture, and some countries more than others, but people come down on screw-ups and, things that cause catastrophic harm, right? And so there are things that happen where somebody screws up or somebody does something intentional, and the government and the media and the powers that be raise hell to find out who's at fault. Let's get to the bottom of it. And we expect that, like from normal stories. And it might be something staged and they have a patsy that they're going to blame. But we want to find out how it was caused and how do we prevent it from happening again, right? And they're already talking about another one or a next one with Bill Gates and all that stuff, right? Another one and a next one.
There's going to be another pandemic.
Sure that we're ready because there will be another pandemic.
Another one, another one, another one. For the next pandemic, which will happen.
That last one, that woman has a blog and she goes after truthers. She interviewed that one nurse who passed out after getting the bloop, and she goes after anti-vaxxers and truthers and so-called conspiracy theorists. But she's saying there's going to be another one. And so if you look at what COVID was, it killed a lot more people than the big event in 2001, a lot more people in the wars in Iraq, the recent wars. I mean, I think all the way back to World War II, and they're saying something like, 6 million worldwide people died of COVID. You could say they inflated those statistics, but those are the official numbers. And then shutting down the economy and all the negative effects. People were in countries that didn't have any margin and didn't have any supplies in terms of, they import a lot of their goods and they're living in poverty. And they sell a lot of things that keep them going, exporting things from their country. And these countries where there's already a high rate of malnourishment and children dying of hunger, and it was way worse when they shut down the world economy. So this thing was a disaster. Like, we don't even know how bad it was. And yeah, they exaggerated and all these things, but there were real life effects from the disease and then the things that have happened since then. Of course, now that the bloop and all the rest of it, right? And so you better find out what caused this. If somebody screwed up, you better find that MFer. If a country screwed up, there needs to be sanctions. Like if this was China, there needs to be some consequences. China received 0 consequences. They're all saying this was a lab in China, the Wuhan lab. And again, I don't believe that. I don't believe the official story, but that's their story. And so why isn't China being punished? Why isn't people talking about China in a negative way? Why isn't there an investigation to see if they did it on purpose, right? And there's all these countries around the world that are just eating this disease, eating the disaster. Not one of them's raising questions about, the cause of it and what can we do to prevent it in future. If there's going to be another one, how can we prevent it? Because if this was leaked from a lab, then this wasn't something that it was. This was something completely preventable. This was caused by human beings. For one, they did gain-of-function research, which has been established, and then they leaked it from a lab, either intentionally or unintentionally. That's the story. And so if those things all happen, that's human beings inflicting this on ourselves. There is overpopulation, and they do want to reduce the population, and this is obviously a way. And a better way is give everyone a bloop and then decide, which people are the ones that are the most, in terms of you give different batches and things like this, right? I mean, that would be the way to do it. You want to depopulate the world to some extent. You can do it in a controlled way where you get rid of the people that you think are the least desirable, the people that have the least amount to offer. You don't get rid of the people that are important and essential. And there's a targeted way to do that. And so that's what seems like happening here, right? That would make the most logical conclusion. So, of course, they're not investigating it, right? They never investigate the things that they're doing themselves unless they have a patsy lined up to blame. But this was a global catastrophe, and it's like, oh, let's not figure out what caused it. Let's just, let's just move on. Right? Rare white bison calf born in Yellowstone fulfilling native prophecy. There it is, great white buffalo. This isn't the first one I've seen. I've seen a number over, like, I think this is like the fifth or sixth one I've seen. A few more things to get to. Surfing legend and Pirates of the Caribbean actor Tommy O'Perry killed in Hawaii. Shark attack. They saw the shark attack and someone saw the guy was struggling he lost a leg and an arm. Were bitten off by the shark, and then he washed up on shore. Surrey cruise celebrates high school graduation with mom Katie Holmes. Drops dad's last name in ceremony because she doesn't like her dad, Tom. Tom Cruise attends Taylor Swift Eras Tour in London after the day after Surrey's high school graduation. And so Tom Cruise is over there in the Eras Tour doing his patented goofy smile. And then apparently he gets mugged by Travis Kelce here. They're having like a little lovers moment there. But he didn't go to his girl's graduation because they hate each other, or she hates him. Ben Affleck dishes wedding ring during lunch with daughter Violet as Jennifer Lopez vacations in Italy. The reason I'm showing you this is because his daughters, Jennifer Gardner's and his daughters, rocking a mask. And then it says here, Ben Affleck flips out on paparazzi outside his home amid Jennifer Lopez marital woes. And the reason I'm showing you this is because there's a video down here from TMZ. Here's the TMZ video. And, I'm not going to show you this because TMZ copyrights everything. But Ben Affleck's driving down his road over here. And over here. And there's all these lights flashing. You can't see them. See, the lights are flashing. And I noticed the lights, and I'm like, that's not safe. So he's driving down this road. He lives back here. I don't know what's going on with that, but he's driving down the road, and there's flashing flashes in his eyes. And he pulls over, and he yells at the guy saying, like, his daughter's going to be driving down, and you blinded me. So he couldn't see, which I was like, wow, that's pretty bad the way they're flashing those lights. I mean, it's pretty bad, the light flashing. And then he goes and yells at the other guy and says, you're going to hurt somebody. They apologize. Of course, they're not going to stop because they got this video, which is what they wanted. But, he didn't flip out like he had a reasonable request, right? A new reality show will pay cash if players can convince experts the earth is flat. I'm trying to find out where this is. A streaming service, the IndieWire exclusively revealed that they recently launched a streaming service. The network is in active production on flat earthers and will launch all 10 episodes in December. Hopefully someone will remind me to check that out because I know they're not going to convince people. So this is Bill Belichick's romance with Jordan Hudson, 24. He's 72. So he is 40 years older than her. And shocks her beauty pageant pals didn't realize she'd do this for fame. Now, she looks like a high school girl. And I kind of ignored this at first, but it is pretty creepy. And he was at her apartment, and he was like walking around with like no shirt on, and he was old, and the paparazzi caught him. And New York Post has posted several articles about this, but you see here she's in her cheerleader. She's like a cheerleader. She's like the high school girls, right? Looks like a high school girl. And Bill Belichick is, old enough to be her grandfather. And so, he's always been a creep. Jennifer Hudson, 23, subtly defends her controversial relationship with Bill Belichick. Who are you to judge? Okay, that's good defense there, high school girl. Justin Timberlake's ego crushed by arrest, album flop, trolling fans, says. There's that. Ink Master Ryan Headley dead at 46 after cancer battle, turbo cancer. Justin Timberlake breaks silence on DWI arrest with a message to his supporters.
I love these 4 guys. We've had an incredible ride.
That's in sync. I don't know where the thing is there. We have been together ups and downs and lefts and rights. He said his concert goers cheered. It's been a tough week, but you're here and I'm here and nothing can change this moment right now. Apparently the guy gave him some warning. Ignored warning minutes before DWI bus, the same cop who ended up arresting him. The guy said, he did something, and the guy warned him, and he continued to drive, and then he looks pretty baked. Okay, so somebody just sent me this. This has been confirmed. The culture, the word of cheese, and from the Wall Street Journal. Next time to buy Parmesan, watch out for microchips. Here's this. Parmigiano Reggiano. I suck at Italian. I could make an excuse why I can't pronounce Indian names or, medical terms. I mean, dyslexia and whatever else. But how come I can't do Italian? Like I'm part Sicilian. Parmigiano Reggiano adopts edible microchips to combat counterfeiters. And so they're putting microchips in their cheese, and they might end up in your belly because, Okay. Bunch more stuff. I was going to put this video up with what I already just showed you, but a few things came in. This person used to be on The Bachelor and now is having some issues with here.
Hey everyone, sorry I look like a hot mess today. I just wanted to vent a little bit. I feel like dates can be so cheap. The last couple of dates that I've gone on...
This falls under the category of pay the man, Danny.
I've expected the guy to pay because I feel like the man should pay for the first date, and they just don't want to. And so I just had a date earlier this afternoon, and I sat there when the bill came, and finally I just said, the guy should pay first, and kind of pushed it towards him, and he said, well, in that case, you should pay. And I just thought, that is so rude. And I just don't understand what the issue is. I feel like everyone's trying to get something for free these days.
That's the part that made this come into the video.
I don't understand. I just want to go on a date and have the man be a gentleman and treat me right, treat me like a woman. So if any of you are having the same experience, let me know. Hey, everyone.
So there's that. And not to be outdone, then somebody sent me this morning.
Come with me to the first ever FatCon. Yes, that's right, haters. There is a convention just for us fats now. There were so many amazing...
I don't know what the haters is, but pretty much everybody in America, not everybody, but the majority of people are overweight, right? I am one of those people. I was not overweight for most of my life, and then at some point I put on some weight. And the biggest issue is it's a health issue. Like, people get into what they look like appearance-wise and these things, but the biggest issue is health, right? And, your weight is, if you're obese, it's going to drastically reduce your lifespan, but also it's going to affect your day-to-day life, right? And your ability to do things, and your mood, and your internal organs, and all these things, right? And so to call people haters, like, there's one thing where people make fun of people's appearance, but there's another thing where this is a health issue, right? That affects everybody because it's, massive health issue that costs trillions of, billions of dollars.
Amazing panels ranging from Fat Liberation 101 to Fat Lesk to Fat Nerds. I even talked on a panel with the Plus Bus on 101 ways to lose the weight of fat hate. There was an amazing plus-size fashion show featuring multiple designers. This one's Chub Rub. I came out to vend and help with the Plus Bus with a few pieces that I carry in their store. They had an incredible vendors hall with all fat artists, design.
You know, it's this idea that there's just all these haters. When, you know, the majority, I mean, I don't know how many, it's like 1/3 of Americans are like obese, or 1/3 of kids, is it something like that? Crazy numbers. And so what are you talking about? Like all the hate that's there. It's not hate, you know, there's some, you know, judgment, but it's, you know, it's a health issue, right? There's a health issue here. You know, everyone's worried about the haters, like they're, you know, a victim of the haters, right? You know, the world's full of just negative people, and then all the other things, dysfunctional people. And if there's legitimate criticism, that's not hate, right? Shifty, shell-shock, crazy town frontman and butterfly singer dead at 49. They got shifty shell-shock. I didn't think they would. His real name is Seth Beinzer, and there is the guy there. I'm not laughing at him die, but his name for whatever it is. There's no cause of death here. Matthew Modine slams Amazon changing iconic Full Metal Jacket poster. Now, this was an iconic movie for me because I had a couple of friends who went through the Marine training program when I was in college. And so, and I, you know, they were talking about this, you know, what they went through and how this movie, you know, the whole scene where they're going through becoming Marines. Who decided to remove Born to Kill? Not only they alter a piece of iconic art by Philip Castle, but they completely misunderstood the point of it being there. Private Joker wears the helmet with Born to Kill and peace button as a statement about the duality of man, which is, you remember from the explanation, because that's what he actually says that in the movie. Because some guy says to him in the movie, what the hell is this on your helmet? You say Born to Kill and you have a peace sign. And he says, it's the duality of man. And the guy says, it's a hardball world out there, son. Something like that, right? And also my brother, who was, was in Vietnam. And so, you know, I remember this being a kind of a central movie because of the intensity of the early part of the movie. It's like half a movie where they go through boot camp. You know, very brutal movie. I think it's Stanley Kubrick. Whoever it is, Amazon removed Born to Kill, which is, you know, COVID boop caused heart attack, stroke, soldier. This is News Nation. I guess we have Chris Cuomo's here. He's kind of starting to get into this, which, you know, I mean, it's at least give Cuomo's a little credit.
Our leaders and our media, they're both making a mistake ignoring long COVID and vaccine-related side effects, okay? They're not going anywhere. It's only going to get worse, and we have to make it matter, especially when it affects our warriors in the line of duty. Then you have an enhanced duty of care. We have to make it matter, so let's get after it. 24-year-old Army National Guard specialist, Carolina Stancic, okay? She says, like many in the military, she was urged by superiors to take the COVID vaccine. So she did. Not unusual. What is unusual, she immediately suffered severe adverse reactions. 3 heart attacks thereafter, and a stroke, okay? Young, strong, fit for duty. 19 months, the Defense Department refused to cover her medical expenses. 70 grand plus. This happened on their watch. According to a new report, the Department of Defense now acknowledges that Carolina's debilitating heart condition, called POTS, may have been caused by the COVID vaccine. And that
may have.
Her developing the heart condition was considered, or is now considered, a line of duty injury. Now, this is a huge admission by the military, but it took...
You know, because they're worried about how much this is going to end up costing them. Whereas, other businesses are not on the hook, even if they forced you to get the bloop. A lot of these corporations. But the military has to take care of its soldiers. And they all had to get this because of their, military, whatever, the mandates. And so the military could go broke. I mean, this could be a budget busting type of situation. They're on the hook for this, right?
Too damn long. Joining us now, Army National Guard Specialist Carolina Stancic, and very important, especially to Carolina, Jeremy Sorensen advocated to get the Department of Defense to acknowledge her injury. That's what he does, okay? And it is very important that we take up this cause ourselves. So first, Carolina, how you doing now? What's the situation?
Hi there, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Obviously, thoughts, views, opinions, and experiences are my own, and I represent myself and not the DoD or the U.S. Army. I guess the closest thing that has recently happened is I, 3 weeks ago, got a pacemaker surgery.
How are you feeling? What are they telling you?
So I went in for surgery to get my heart monitored. And within 1 week, they were saying that my heart was stopping, and I got started on a heart failure med. I pretty much was going through like another big flare where I was going to go back to the hospital, and then they had called me and said, you need a pacemaker like now. I lost all my privileges for driving and just like daily living, but I would say it's helped significantly.
I mean, people's lives are ruined, aside from people who are dying. She's 24 years old, and it's a lot of these incidents happens after people raise their heart rate in exercise and doing things that young people do, right? Exerting themselves in some way. And she's obviously someone who's in shape and whatever it is, right? Someone who's going through the, military, whatever protocols and things and trainings, and your life, like that part of your life can no longer exist, right? We see this with all these kids playing sports and they go home and they have a heart attack. And so, this is like the new normal.
Just kind of reversing some of the things I've been dealing with for the last 3 years.
And do your doctors have any question as to whether or not the vaccine had something to do with what happened after you had the vaccine?
They don't, and I have multiple letters that have stated that the vaccine was the issue.
Now, don't go anywhere, obviously. Jeremy, first of all, thank you very much for the work that you do with your organization.
Your service.
Helping veterans get the care and the attention that they need. How surprising was it to you when you learned about what's in the file, what the doctors were saying, that this was as difficult as it was to get acknowledged by the government?
Well, thank you, Chris, for having me on and having Specialist Stancic on this morning and bringing this issue to light. Unfortunately for me, it was not surprising at all because I've seen so many of these cases of the Department of Defense, specifically the National Guard, denying that injuries, illnesses, and diseases have been incurred or aggravated in the line of duty. It's really, quite frankly, for traditional reservists and guardsmen, very regular for the Department of Defense, the U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, the National Guard to deny that medical conditions happen in the line of duty in order to save the government money by denying service members.
Yeah, it's ongoing. So this is an ongoing issue, and it's, again, it could bankrupt or at least put a huge, the military will always be supported, but they've, done this for years. My brother said that he was in Vietnam, and he said that, when you join the Army or the military, you give up your rights, right? They order you to do things. You have to take the bloop. You don't have right over your own body. They can tell you what to do. They put you in harm's way, and you have to obey orders. You're ordered to do things. And the trade-off is supposed to be when you get out, they take care of you. There's some money you get, right? Some, whatever it is. But in terms of your medical care, it's supposed to be there. And the Veterans Hospital, the VA, is sucky. Like, it's just legendarily failing all these people say thank you for your service, but it just rings hollow. And so there's going to be a crisis here because there already is one. This crisis isn't going away. Like these issues, they're going to keep on getting worse over time. It seems like these things are time released. They're not, it's the longer that goes on, the more that people are suffering from the bloop and things like this, right? And breaking down. Even COVID, people have it in their system and they might not have gotten a bad reaction before, but who knows what's going to happen later. And, a biological weapon, you don't know you've been poisoned or something, right? And so, how that's going to affect everybody long term. Bottom line is, there's a depopulation agenda and things are getting, going south on every level. There's a breakdown in our civilization and all the rest of it. But let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.